No one believed it at first. Police officers tasing a blind 6-year-old girl and her loyal service dog in the middle of a crowded park. But when the specialized rescue team arrived just 7 minutes later, everything changed. Lily Anderson lay trembling on the grass, her small fingers desperately reaching for Maverick's motionless form. The German Shepherd's chest barely moved, each labored breath weaker than the last. Around them, a crowd of horrified onlookers recorded everything on their phones, their gasps and cries forming a soundtrack to the unfolding tragedy. "What have you done?" Sarah Anderson screamed at the officer, cradling her daughter's head. "She's blind. He's a service dog." The officer stepped back, face pale with realization. In the veterinary clinic 20 minutes later, the doctor's words hung in the air. "We have 24 hours to save this dog's life." Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. Sarah Anderson paced the sterile hallway of Riverview Animal Hospital, her footsteps echoing against the linoleum floor. Through the observation window, she could see her daughter Lily sitting beside Maverick's treatment table, the child's small hand resting on the German Shepherd's neck. The dog's body was connected to monitoring equipment, the steady beep of his heart monitor providing the only comfort in the room. "Mrs. Anderson?" Dr. Thompson approached, clipboard in hand, her face etched with concern. "Could I speak with you privately?" Sarah glanced at Lily, who seemed to sense the conversation despite not being able to hear it. The bond between the child and her dog was almost supernatural in its intensity. "Can we talk here?" "I don't want to leave them," Sarah said. Dr. Thompson nodded, lowering her voice. "Maverick's condition is critical. The electrical shock from the taser has caused cardiac arrhythmia. His heart muscle is showing signs of damage." She flipped through her notes. "In a healthy dog, this might resolve with standard treatment, but Maverick's medical history shows he sustained a previous injury during his military service." Sarah felt her throat tighten. "What are you saying?" "He needs a specialized medication called CardioFix. It's designed specifically for service animals who've experienced cardiac trauma. Without it—" Dr. Thompson didn't finish the sentence. "So give it to him," Sarah urged, her voice breaking. "That's the problem. We don't stock it here in Pine Ridge. It's only available at the Central Veterinary Hospital in Westlake, about 200 miles from here." Outside, thunder rumbled. The spring storm that had been threatening all day was finally arriving, dark clouds gathering on the horizon. "I'll drive there myself," Sarah said immediately. Dr. Thompson shook her head. "In this weather, the mountain roads will be treacherous. And even if you could make it, we need to administer the medication within 24 hours. His heart can't sustain this arrhythmia much longer." From inside the treatment room, Lily's voice drifted out. "Maverick, please stay with me. You promised, remember? You promised you'd never leave me in the dark." The simple words from her daughter's mouth hit Sarah like a physical blow. Maverick wasn't just a service dog. He was Lily's eyes, her independence, her closest companion. The thought of losing him was unbearable. "There must be something we can do," Sarah insisted, fighting back tears. Dr. Thompson hesitated. "I've put in calls to every veterinary clinic within 100 miles. I've also contacted the police department to see if they might help with an emergency transport, given that they—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Given that they're responsible for this situation." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. The image of Officer Wilson firing his taser at Maverick, then at her screaming daughter, replayed in her mind like a nightmare. She couldn't understand how anyone could mistake a clearly marked service dog and a blind child for a threat. 24 hours, Sarah whispered, looking at the clock on the wall. It was 4:15 p.m. "By this time tomorrow, we'll do everything we can," Dr. Thompson promised, though her expression betrayed her doubt. In the treatment room, Lily began to sing softly to Maverick, a lullaby Sarah used to sing to her. The dog's tail thumped weakly against the table in response. Sarah watched her daughter singing to Maverick, and her mind drifted back to the day they'd first met, 3 years ago. Lily had been just 3 years old then, already navigating a world of darkness with a determination that broke Sarah's heart and filled it with pride simultaneously. From the moment of her birth, Lily had never seen the world. The doctors explained it was a rare congenital condition. Her eyes had developed perfectly, those beautiful blue Anderson eyes that she'd inherited from her father, but the neural pathways to her brain never formed correctly. Sarah remembered holding her newborn, watching those unseeing eyes move and blink, and promising that she would give her daughter everything she needed to live a full life. Robert Anderson had been by her side then, the proud father already planning how they would adapt their home, researching the best schools and learning Braille alongside his wife. A career military man, Robert approached his daughter's disability like a mission to be conquered. "She's an Anderson," he would say, "and Andersons never quit." But Robert wasn't here anymore. His transport helicopter had gone down in a sandstorm 2 years later, leaving Sarah to raise Lily alone. The memory of that dark period washed over Sarah as she continued to watch through the clinic window. After Robert's death, she'd left her own position as a military canine trainer. 15 years of experience working with the most elite dogs in the service, and suddenly she couldn't bear to be around them. Each German Shepherd, each Belgian Malinois reminded her too much of the dogs that had accompanied her husband on missions, dogs she had trained. It was Mrs. Abernathy, Lily's preschool teacher, who had first suggested a service dog. "Lily's doing wonderfully with her cane," the older woman had said during a parent-teacher conference, but a service animal could give her independence beyond what any cane could provide. And companionship, too. Sarah had resisted at first. The thought of bringing a service dog into their home felt like reopening a wound that had barely begun to heal. But when she watched Lily stumble in the playground, heard the cruel taunts of children who didn't understand, she reconsidered. The Faithful Companions Training Center had a stellar reputation. Located on the outskirts of Pine Ridge, it specialized in training service dogs for children with disabilities. Sarah had driven there on a Tuesday afternoon, Lily quiet in the back seat, neither of them knowing how that day would change their lives. "We have several dogs in our program that might be suitable," Melissa Jenkins, the center's director, had explained as she led them through the facility. "All of them are trained to guide, alert to dangers, and provide stability for a child Lily's size." Lily had clutched Sarah's hand tightly as they walked, her small face tight with anxiety. New environments were always challenging, each unfamiliar space a potential maze of unseen obstacles. "There's someone special I'd like you to meet," Melissa had said, stopping outside a training room. "He's not typically who we'd pair with a child, but given your background, Mrs. Anderson, I think you might be uniquely qualified to handle him." When Maverick had padded into the room, Sarah immediately recognized the bearing of a military dog. The German Shepherd moved with purpose, alert and scanning, his posture betraying his training background. What she hadn't expected was how gently he approached Lily, how carefully he lowered his head to her height. "Maverick came to us 6 months ago," Melissa explained quietly. "He was a military working dog, primarily in explosive detection. His handler was killed in action, and Maverick had a difficult time adjusting afterward. He was too traumatized to return to active duty." Sarah had felt a lump form in her throat. "Like us?" she'd whispered. "Can I touch him?" Lily had asked, her voice small and uncertain. "Of course, sweetheart," Melissa had answered. "Hold out your hand, palm up, and let him come to you." Sarah would never forget what happened next. Lily had extended her small hand into the empty air, and Maverick, without prompting, had gently placed his muzzle against her palm. Lily's face had transformed, a smile spreading across her features as her fingers explored the dog's face, tracing his ears, his snout, the soft fur around his eyes. "He's smiling," Lily had declared confidently. "I can feel it in his cheeks." And somehow, impossibly, the serious German Shepherd did seem to be smiling. "Would you like to take a walk with Maverick?" Melissa had suggested, offering Lily a specialized harness handle designed for her height. That first walk had been tentative, Lily unsure of how to interpret Maverick's guidance, the dog carefully adjusting his pace to her short steps. But by the end of the training room circuit, something had clicked between them. Maverick hadn't just been leading Lily, he'd been communicating with her, subtle shifts in his body, signaling turns, stops, and obstacles. "He talks to me, Mommy," Lily had exclaimed afterward. "Not with words, but I can understand him." The training period had been intensive, 3 months of daily sessions. Sarah had watched as her daughter blossomed under Maverick's guidance. The dog seemed to understand instinctively what Lily needed, not just physical guidance but emotional support as well. He would lay his head in her lap when she grew frustrated with Braille lessons, nudge her hand playfully when she became too serious, and stand protectively beside her when strangers approached. For his part, Maverick transformed too. The haunted look in his eyes gradually faded, replaced by a sense of purpose. He'd found a new mission in Lily. "This is the first time I've seen him truly engaged since he came to us," Melissa had remarked one day. "It's like they're healing each other." The day they'd brought Maverick home permanently had been one of celebration. Lily had spent hours showing the dog around his new house, proudly introducing him to each room, explaining where her toys were kept, where he would sleep, right beside her bed, of course, and, most importantly, where the treats were stored. Their daily routine quickly developed a rhythm. Each morning, Maverick would gently wake Lily by placing a paw on her bed and giving a soft whine. He would guide her to the bathroom, wait patiently outside the door, then lead her to the kitchen for breakfast. The bus driver had quickly learned to expect the pair, making sure to call out, "Good morning, Lily and Maverick," so the girl would know exactly where to board. At school, Maverick would lay quietly beside Lily's desk during lessons, alert but unobtrusive. During recess, he would guide her to the playground and stand vigilant as she played with friends who had quickly learned to announce their approach. "It's Emma, Lily. Can I pet Maverick today?" Or, "Jackson here. Want to play jump rope?" The bullying had stopped almost immediately. Something about the dignified presence of the German Shepherd discouraged the crueler children, while his obvious devotion to Lily inspired a protective attitude in others. But it was on their walks through town that the true magic of their partnership shone brightest. Maverick navigated sidewalks, crosswalks, and shop entrances with confident precision. He would guide Lily around obstacles before she even knew they were there, find the safest path through crowded areas, and alert her to steps, curbs, and changes in terrain with subtle cues she had learned to interpret. "It's like dancing," Lily had told Sarah once. "Maverick leads, and I follow, and we never miss a step." Sarah had noticed how the dog constantly checked back on Lily, glancing up at her face every 7 steps exactly, as if reassuring himself that she was okay, that she trusted his guidance. He had developed a special signal just for her, a specific way he would press his body against her leg when he wanted her to stop, telling her there was something she needed to pay attention to. There had been challenges, of course, the time Maverick had growled at the new mailman, not understanding the uniform. The afternoon he'd become distressed during a thunderstorm, a leftover anxiety from his military days that had frightened Lily until Sarah explained that sometimes even brave dogs get scared. The occasional well-meaning stranger who would try to pet him without permission, not understanding that he was working. But through it all, the bond between Lily and Maverick had only grown stronger. He wasn't just her guide. He was her confidant, the one she whispered secrets to at night, the patient listener who never interrupted when she practiced her reading aloud, the warm presence beside her during thunderstorms. 3 years of trust, 3 years of growing together, 3 years of Maverick being Lily's eyes in a world she navigated by sound, touch, and smell. And now, watching her daughter sing to the injured dog, Sarah felt a desperation she hadn't experienced since the day the military officers had appeared at her door with news of Robert. She couldn't let Lily lose Maverick, too. She wouldn't. Sarah was jolted from her memories by the sound of the clinic door opening. She turned, expecting Dr. Thompson, but instead found herself face to face with Officer Wilson, the same policeman who had tased her daughter and Maverick just hours before. Sarah stiffened at the sight of Officer Wilson standing awkwardly in the clinic hallway, his uniform still crisp despite the chaos he had caused. His hand rested nervously on his belt, far from his taser this time. "Mrs. Anderson," he began, his voice quiet, "I came to check on your daughter and the dog." "His name is Maverick," Sarah replied coldly. "And my daughter is Lily. You should know their names if you're going to shoot electricity through their bodies." Wilson flinched visibly. "I'm sorry. There was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Sarah's voice rose sharply, causing a technician to glance their way. "My blind 6-year-old daughter and her clearly marked service dog were walking through a park. What part of that required a taser?" "We received a call about a suspicious person with a large dog approaching children in the playground area," Wilson explained, his eyes darting to the treatment room where Lily still sat with Maverick. The caller specifically mentioned threatening behavior. Sarah shook her head in disbelief. "Threatening behavior? Lily can't even see where she's going without Maverick." He was guiding her, like he always does. Outside, the storm had intensified. Rain lashed against the windows, and thunder rumbled overhead. The lights in the clinic flickered momentarily. "Who made this call?" Sarah demanded suddenly. "I want to know who would report a blind child as suspicious." Wilson shifted uncomfortably. "I'm not at liberty to say, but I want you to know that the department deeply regrets what happened. The chief sent me to offer assistance with anything you might need." Dr. Thompson approached them, her expression grave. "Officer, since you're offering assistance, we need emergency transport to Central Veterinary Hospital in Westlake. They have the medication Maverick needs, and with this storm, our usual courier services can't make the trip." Wilson nodded quickly. "I'll see what we can arrange. The department has 4-wheel drive vehicles that could manage the mountain roads." "We have less than 24 hours, Dr. Thompson added pointedly. "I understand. I'll make the call right now." Wilson stepped away, pulling out his radio. Sarah watched him go, suspicion gnawing at her. Something about this whole situation felt wrong. A false report specifically targeting Lily and Maverick, the immediate escalation to using a taser. It seemed deliberate rather than a simple mistake. She turned to Dr. Thompson. "Can I use your computer for a few minutes? I want to check something." The veterinarian nodded. "Use the one at the reception desk. Everyone's busy with emergency cases due to the storm, so you'll have privacy." Sarah slipped behind the desk and quickly opened a web browser. She typed in "Officer Wilson, Pine Ridge Police" and began scanning through results. Nothing unusual appeared until she switched to an image search and found a local newspaper photograph of a police department charity event. There was Officer Wilson standing next to a man who looked strikingly similar to him, a brother, perhaps. She studied the caption, "Officer James Wilson and Brother Clayton Wilson of Elite Canine Training Services at the annual Police Benevolent Fund dinner." Elite Canine Training Services. Sarah knew that name. They were a relatively new competitor to Faithful Companions, having opened about a year ago on the other side of town. There had been some controversy when they first arrived. rumors of aggressive training methods, and inflated prices. Sarah quickly searched for more information about Elite Canine. Their website was slick and professional, touting military-grade training techniques and exclusive clientele. But it was a news article from 3 months ago that caught her attention. Local dog training centers compete for lucrative government contract. According to the article, both Faithful Companions and Elite Canine were being considered for a substantial government contract to provide service dogs to veterans and disabled children across the state. The decision was expected to be announced next month. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. Could this be connected? Would someone really go so far as to orchestrate an incident to discredit a rival company's service dog? Her thoughts were interrupted by a commotion at the clinic entrance. An elderly man with a cane was arguing loudly with the receptionist. "I don't care about your policies. I saw what happened, and I want to check on that little girl and her dog." Sarah recognized Mr. Jenkins, their neighbor from 2 doors down. The 78-year-old retired schoolteacher had always been kind to Lily, often sitting on his porch and describing the birds at his feeder when they walked by. "Mr. Jenkins?" Sarah called, stepping forward. "It's okay. They're with me." The old man turned, relief washing over his weathered face. "Sarah, thank God. I've been looking everywhere for you since that terrible business in the park. How are Lily and Maverick?" "Lily's shaken but physically okay. Maverick is—" Her voice faltered. "He's in critical condition." Mr. Jenkins' face darkened with anger. "It's an outrage. I saw the whole thing. That officer didn't even try to assess the situation before pulling out his taser, and now the police department is spinning some tale about responding to a threat report." "You were there?" Sarah asked. "Did you see who might have made such a report?" The old man shook his head. "No, but I did see something odd just before it happened." There was a man watching Lily and Maverick from the picnic area. He was talking on his phone and pointing in their direction. Didn't think much of it at the time, but looking back— "Can you describe him?" "Tall fellow, athletic build. Had one of those fancy windbreakers with a logo on it. Some kind of dog, I think." Sarah's suspicion solidified into certainty. "Mr. Jenkins, would you recognize the logo if you saw it again?" When he nodded, she turned the computer monitor toward him and brought up the Elite Canine website with their wolf head logo prominently displayed. "That's it," he confirmed without hesitation. "That's what was on his jacket." Officer Wilson returned just then, pocketing his radio. "I've arranged for a patrol car with snow chains to attempt the drive to Westlake. They'll leave within the hour and—" "Who called in the report about my daughter?" Sarah interrupted, her voice steel. Wilson blinked in surprise. "Ma'am, as I said, I can't disclose. Was it someone from Elite Canine Training Services? Perhaps someone connected to your brother Clayton?" The officer's face drained of color. "I don't know what you're implying, but—" "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Your brother works for a company that's competing with Faithful Companions, where we got Maverick, for a government contract. Suddenly, my daughter and her perfectly trained service dog are reported as threatening, and you immediately respond with excessive force. Now Maverick is fighting for his life." Mr. Jenkins stepped forward, his cane thumping on the linoleum. "I saw it all, young man, and I've already spoken with my attorney. This whole thing stinks to high heaven." Wilson's composure cracked. "Look, I responded to a call. The description matched, a child with a German Shepherd approaching other children. I was told the dog was showing aggressive behavior. Maverick has never shown aggression to anyone," Sarah countered. "He's specially trained not to, even under provocation. That's what makes him suitable for a child like Lily." From the treatment room came a small voice. "Mom, is something wrong?" Sarah immediately moderated her tone. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Mr. Jenkins is here to see you and Maverick." As the old man made his way to Lily, Sarah turned back to Wilson. I want to know who made that call. Now." The officer hesitated, then seemed to come to a decision. "The call came from a cell phone registered to Gregory Payne. He's the director of training at Elite Canine." Sarah felt a cold fury wash over her. "And you didn't think to mention this connection when you tased my daughter and her dog?" "I didn't know at the time," Wilson protested. "I just responded to the call description. It wasn't until afterward, when I called my brother to tell him what happened, that I realized there might be a connection." "Might be?" Sarah's voice was incredulous. "Your brother didn't warn you that his boss might be setting you up to attack a competitor's service dog?" Wilson looked genuinely distressed. "Clayton just said it was convenient timing with the contract decision coming up. I didn't understand what he meant until I thought about it more. That's why I came here, not just to check on your daughter, but because something didn't feel right about the whole situation." Dr. Thompson, who had been listening to the exchange, interjected. "This is all very disturbing, but right now our priority has to be getting that medication for Maverick. The transport you arranged, officer. How reliable will it be in this storm?" Wilson grimaced. "Honestly, the Weather Service just upgraded to a severe thunderstorm warning with possible flash flooding in the mountain passes. Even with four-wheel drive, it's risky." Sarah looked at the clock on the wall. 5 hours had already passed since the incident. "What about air transport?" "All small aircraft are grounded due to the storm," Dr. Thompson replied. "And even the medical helicopters are only flying for human emergencies." Sarah felt desperation clawing at her. Every minute that passed was another minute Maverick's damaged heart had to struggle. Another minute that Lily might be closer to losing her guide, her independence, her best friend. "I'll drive there myself," she decided. "My Jeep has handled worse." "Mrs. Anderson, be reasonable," Wilson objected. "The roads to Westlake cross 3 mountain passes. They're dangerous enough in good weather." "I don't have a choice," Sarah replied firmly. "I'm not going to tell my daughter that we lost Maverick because we were afraid of a little rain." Dr. Thompson placed a hand on Sarah's arm. "I understand how you feel, but there's something else you should know. The medication Maverick needs isn't just sitting on a shelf at Central Veterinary. It needs to be specially prepared for his weight and condition. I've spoken with their cardiac specialist, and they'll need Maverick's exact medical records in about 3 hours to formulate the proper dose." "So send them electronically," Sarah urged. "I've tried. Our internet connection keeps dropping because of the storm, and their specialist is only on duty until 10 p.m. If you can't get there before then with the complete records—" The weight of the situation crashed down on Sarah. Even if she left immediately and somehow made the treacherous drive in record time, the specialist might be gone by the time she arrived. And without the properly formulated medication, the journey would be pointless. Officer Wilson cleared his throat. "Mrs. Anderson, I want to make this right. Let me go. I can take a police cruiser with the emergency lights, carry the medical records, and have the department call ahead to ensure the specialist stays late if necessary." Sarah studied the man who had caused this nightmare, trying to gauge his sincerity. "Why would you do that?" "Because I made a terrible mistake today," Wilson admitted. "I didn't verify the report. I didn't take time to assess the situation. I just reacted. And now an innocent child and her service dog are suffering for it. Please, let me try to fix this." Before Sarah could respond, the clinic doors burst open, and a tall man in a rain-soaked suit strode in, flanked by 2 uniformed officers who weren't from the local department. The man's silver hair was immaculately styled despite the weather, and his bearing suggested authority and purpose. "My name is Dr. Richard Bennett," he announced, his voice carrying through the clinic waiting area. "I'm the director of the National Service Dog Association, and I'm here about Maverick and Lily Anderson." Dr. Bennett stood in the doorway, rainwater dripping from his expensive coat onto the clinic floor. His presence commanded attention, and even Officer Wilson straightened his posture instinctively. Dr. Bennett? Sarah repeated, confusion evident in her voice. I don't understand. How do you know about Lily and Maverick? The older man's stern expression softened slightly as he focused on Sarah. Mrs. Anderson, the incident in the park has already gone viral. Multiple bystanders recorded the event and posted it online. My office received dozens of calls within the hour. He gestured to the officers beside him. These are Agents Morales and Taylor from the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. They're here to investigate the incident as a potential violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Officer Wilson paled visibly. Sir, there was a misunderstanding. Save it, Bennett cut him off sharply. The videos clearly show a uniformed officer tasing a service animal with proper identification and then tasing a blind child. There is no misunderstanding that justifies such actions. Dr. Thompson stepped forward. Dr. Bennett, I'm glad you're here, but right now our primary concern is Maverick's condition. He needs specialized cardiac medication that's only available at Central Veterinary Hospital in Westlake, and with this storm... I'm aware of the situation, Bennett interrupted. I've already spoken with Dr. Keller at Central. We have arrangements in place. He turned to Sarah. Mrs. Anderson, may I see Maverick and your daughter? Sarah hesitated, protective instincts flaring. My daughter has been through enough today. I don't want her upset by more strangers. Bennett's expression softened further. I understand completely. Perhaps just Maverick, then. I need to assess his condition personally. After a moment's consideration, Sarah nodded and led Bennett toward the treatment room, stopping just outside. Through the window, Lily could be seen stroking Maverick's fur, while Mr. Jenkins sat beside her, apparently telling her a story to keep her distracted. Dr. Thompson, could you ask Lily and Mr. Jenkins to step out for a moment? Perhaps get Lily something to drink, Sarah suggested quietly. The veterinarian nodded and entered the room, speaking softly to its occupants. A minute later, she emerged with Lily holding Mr. Jenkins's hand. Mom? Lily called, her face turning unerringly toward the sound of Sarah's breathing. Doctor, Thompson says Maverick needs a special checkup. That's right, sweetheart, Sarah confirmed, moving to take her daughter's hand. This is Dr. Bennett. He's an expert on service dogs like Maverick. Bennett knelt down to Lily's level, though she couldn't see the gesture. Hello, Lily. I've heard Maverick is one of the bravest dogs in the country. A small smile flickered across Lily's face. He is. He's the bravest and smartest dog in the whole world. Are you going to help him get better? I'm going to do everything I can, Bennett promised, his voice gentle. Would it be okay if I spent a few minutes with him? Lily nodded solemnly. He likes it when you scratch behind his left ear. That's his favorite spot. I'll remember that, Bennett said, rising to his feet. He waited until Mr. Jenkins had led Lily toward the vending machines before entering the treatment room with Sarah and Dr. Thompson. Maverick lifted his head weakly as they approached, his eyes focusing on the newcomer with the wariness of a trained service dog encountering a stranger near his charge. It's okay, Maverick, Sarah soothed. He's here to help. Bennett approached the examination table slowly, allowing the dog to catch his scent. He ran practiced hands over Maverick's body, checking his gums, eyes, and pulse with the expertise of someone familiar with canine medicine. Top-tier training, Bennett murmured, noting how Maverick, despite his weakened state, remained alert and watchful of the door where Lily had exited. Faithful Companions does exceptional work. You know the center? Sarah asked. I know all the reputable service dog training facilities in the country, Bennett replied. Faithful Companions is among the best. Their dogs have a distinctive training style, thorough but compassionate. He scratched behind Maverick's left ear as Lily had suggested, and the dog's tail thumped weakly in response. Dr. Thompson, Bennett continued, I understand Maverick is suffering from cardiac arrhythmia induced by electrical shock, complicated by a previous injury sustained during military service. Is that correct? The veterinarian nodded. Yes, and his condition is deteriorating. Without the cardiofix medication, I have it with me, Bennett stated simply. Both women stared at him in shock. You... what? Dr. Thompson stammered. Bennett reached into his briefcase and removed a temperature-controlled medical container. As I said, I spoke with Dr. Keller at Central Veterinary. When I explained the situation, she prepared the medication based on the records faithful companions had on file for Maverick. But how did you know to bring it? Sarah asked, hope and confusion battling in her voice. Bennett's expression became grave. Because this isn't the first case we've seen. Mrs. Anderson, I believe your daughter and Maverick were deliberately targeted as part of a coordinated attempt to discredit Faithful Companions Training Center. The room fell silent except for the beeping of Maverick's heart monitor. What do you mean, coordinated attempt? Sarah finally asked. Bennett handed the medication to Dr. Thompson, who immediately began preparing it for administration. In the past 6 months, there have been 4 similar incidents across the country, he explained. In each case, a service dog from a training center competing for government contracts was somehow compromised or injured. 2 dogs were allegedly accidentally poisoned at dog parks. 1 was hit by a car under suspicious circumstances, and 1 was reported for aggression and nearly euthanized before we intervened. Sarah felt sick. And you think Maverick was... what? The next target? I know he was, Bennett confirmed grimly. We've been tracking these incidents and identified a pattern. In each case, the affected training center was in direct competition with a company called National Elite Canine Services. Elite Canine, Sarah whispered. That's the company Officer Wilson's brother works for. National Elite Canine Services operates under different names in different regions, Bennett explained. Here it's simply Elite Canine. They're a relatively new player in the industry, but they've been aggressively pursuing government contracts worth millions. Dr. Thompson had finished preparing the medication and was now injecting it slowly into Maverick's IV line. This should stabilize his heart rhythm, she explained quietly. We'll need to monitor him closely for the next few hours. Bennett watched the procedure with evident concern before continuing. Mrs. Anderson, I need to ask you some direct questions. Has anyone from Elite Canine ever approached you about Maverick? Perhaps suggested their services were superior or offered to provide a better trained dog? Sarah thought for a moment. About 2 months ago, a man approached us in the grocery store. He commented on how well-behaved Maverick was, but suggested their newer training methods produced dogs with enhanced capabilities. I didn't think much of it at the time. Did he leave a card? Any contact information? Yes, but I threw it away. I wasn't interested. Bennett nodded. That fits the pattern. They identify potential conversion clients, make their pitch, and if rejected, sometimes resort to more aggressive tactics. But to deliberately harm a service dog, to endanger a blind child, Sarah's voice rose with indignation. That's beyond unethical. It's criminal. Precisely why the Justice Department is involved, Bennett agreed. The stakes are high. The government contract in question is worth approximately $20 million over 5 years. For some, that's motivation enough. Sarah looked at Maverick, who seemed to be responding to the medication. His breathing appeared less labored, and the rhythm on the heart monitor was gradually becoming more regular. What happens now? She asked. Agent Morales will take Officer Wilson's statement regarding who called in the report and why he responded as he did, Bennett explained. Agent Taylor is already on her way to Elite Canine's facility with a warrant. And I... He paused, seeming suddenly uncomfortable. And you? Sarah prompted. I would like to speak with Lily, Bennett said quietly. With your permission, of course. Something in his tone made Sarah study him more carefully. There was an intensity to his request that seemed out of proportion to the investigation. Why Lily, specifically? Bennett hesitated, then reached into his pocket and removed a worn photograph. He handed it to Sarah without comment. The photo showed a younger Bennett in military dress uniform standing beside a man who looked startlingly familiar, a man with the same blue eyes that Lily had inherited. "You knew Robert," Sarah whispered, her fingers trembling on the photograph. "Captain Robert Anderson was my son," Bennett said, his voice thick with emotion. "Which makes Lily my granddaughter." Sarah staggered backward, grabbing the edge of the examination table for support. "That's impossible. Robert's parents died when he was in college. That's what he told me." Bennett's face reflected deep regret. "I wasn't dead, Sarah. I was dead to him. Robert cut ties with me after his mother passed away. He blamed me, rightly so, for being an absent father, for putting my career before my family. By the time I realized what I'd lost, he refused to speak to me." "He never mentioned you," Sarah said, trying to process this revelation. "Not once in all our years together." "I'm not surprised," Bennett acknowledged sadly. "The last time we spoke was before his deployment. I tried to reconnect, but he told me I was no longer his father, that I'd forfeited that right years ago." Sarah's mind raced through implications. "How did you know about Lily, about us?" "I kept tabs on Robert from a distance," Bennett admitted. "When I learned he'd married, I was happy for him. When I heard about Lily's birth and her condition, I wanted to reach out, but I respected Robert's wishes to keep me out of his life." "And after he died?" Sarah's voice had an edge now. Bennett looked away. "I was a coward. I told myself you wouldn't want the intrusion of a father-in-law you'd never met, especially one Robert had rejected. So I watched from afar, making anonymous donations to Lily's medical fund, ensuring certain doors would be open for her education." "You've been watching us all this time?" Sarah wasn't sure whether to feel angry or relieved that Lily had family she'd never known about. "Not in a creepy way," Bennett clarified quickly. "I receive updates from the trust I established for Lily's care. When faithful companions reported placing a dog with her, I was pleased. They're an excellent organization." He stroked Maverick's fur gently. "When I saw the video today, when I saw my granddaughter being tased alongside her service dog, I knew I couldn't stay in the shadows any longer." Dr. Thompson, who had been silently monitoring Maverick's response to the medication, cleared her throat awkwardly. "I'll, give you two some privacy," she murmured, slipping out of the room. In the silence that followed, Sarah stared at the man who claimed to be Lily's grandfather. She saw hints of Robert in his jawline, in the way he held himself, but more convincingly, she saw genuine pain in his eyes, the pain of a man who had made terrible mistakes and lived with regret. "Why now?" she finally asked. "Why not come forward when Robert died? Lily could have had a grandfather all these years." "Fear," Bennett answered simply. "Fear that you would reject me as Robert had. Fear that I would fail Lily as I failed her father. But mostly, fear that I didn't deserve a second chance." Before Sarah could respond, the treatment room door opened and Lily appeared, her hand clutching Mr. Jenkins's sleeve. "Mom," she called, "is Maverick better now? I heard his beeping machine change." Sarah looked at Bennett, a silent question in her eyes. He nodded slightly, understanding her unspoken request for time. "Yes, sweetheart," Sarah answered, moving to guide her daughter to the examination table. "Dr. Bennett brought special medicine for Maverick. He's starting to feel better already." Lily's face lit up with hope. "Really? Can I touch him?" "Of course you can," Sarah assured her, helping her locate Maverick's head. The German shepherd, recognizing his young charge, summoned the energy to lift his head and lick Lily's hand. The little girl giggled, the first joyful sound she'd made since the incident. "See? I told you he's the bravest dog in the world," Lily declared proudly to the room. Nothing can keep Maverick down for long. Bennett watched the interaction with glistening eyes, seeing his granddaughter up close for the first time. Sarah caught his gaze and mouthed silently, "Later. We'll talk later." He nodded in understanding, then quietly excused himself to check on the Justice Department agent's progress. As he left, Sarah realized that in the space of a few hours, her world had been upended twice. First by the attack on Lily and Maverick, and now by the appearance of a grandfather her daughter had never known existed. But watching Lily whisper encouragement to her beloved dog, Sarah felt a cautious hope rise within her. Perhaps something good could come from this day after all. The storm continued to rage outside the veterinary clinic, rain lashing against the windows as thunder rumbled overhead. Sarah sat beside Lily, who had fallen asleep with her head resting against Maverick's side. The German Shepherd remained alert despite his condition, his eyes following each person who entered the room with the vigilance of a guardian who refused to abandon his post. Dr. Thompson had confirmed that Maverick was responding well to the medication Dr. Bennett had brought. His heart rhythm had stabilized, though he wasn't out of danger yet. "The next 12 hours will be critical," she had explained, "but I'm cautiously optimistic." Sarah checked her watch, 8:42 p.m. Just over 4 hours since the attack in the park. It felt like a lifetime ago. She gently stroked Lily's hair, careful not to wake her. The emotional trauma of the day had exhausted the little girl, who had refused to leave Maverick's side even for a moment. Sarah had managed to coax her into eating a sandwich from the clinic's vending machine, but Lily had eaten mechanically, her attention never straying from her beloved dog. The treatment room door opened quietly, and Dr. Bennett entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He offered one to Sarah, who accepted it gratefully. "How are they doing?" he asked softly, nodding toward Lily and Maverick. "Better," Sarah replied. "Lily finally fell asleep about 20 minutes ago. Maverick's been watching over her the whole time, even though he's the one who's injured." Bennett smiled sadly. "Service dogs have an extraordinary sense of duty. They don't understand the concept of being off-duty when their person needs them." A comfortable silence settled between them as they watched the sleeping child and her vigilant protector. Sarah took the opportunity to study Bennett more carefully. In his features she could see subtle resemblances to Robert. The shape of his brow, the set of his jaw. It was both comforting and painful, like discovering a photograph of her husband she hadn't known existed. "You have an update?" Sarah finally asked, keeping her voice low. Bennett nodded. "Agent Taylor just called in. They executed the warrant at Elite Canine's facility and found some disturbing evidence. Apparently, Gregory Payne, their director of training, has been orchestrating a systematic campaign against competing service dog providers. They found documentation detailing plans to discredit at least 3 other training centers, including Faithful Companions." "And Maverick was a target," Sarah concluded. "Yes, but it goes deeper than that," Bennett continued. "They specifically targeted Maverick because of his background and because of Lily's visibility in the community. A blind child with a former military dog makes for a powerful image. If they could create an incident where that dog appeared dangerous or unstable, they could claim that Faithful Companions was placing dangerous dogs with vulnerable clients," Sarah finished, anger rising in her voice. "Using my daughter as a pawn in their scheme." "Precisely. According to the documents they found, Payne believed that if a high-profile service dog from Faithful Companions was involved in a public incident, it would cast doubt on all their placements and potentially sway the contract decision." Sarah shook her head in disgust. "What about Officer Wilson? Was he part of this plan?" "That's still being determined," Bennett said carefully. "He claims he was merely responding to a call, but the fact that his brother works for Elite Canine raises serious questions about his involvement or, at minimum, his judgment." Outside, a particularly loud thunderclap shook the building, causing the lights to flicker momentarily. Lily stirred, but didn't wake, her small hand instinctively seeking Maverick's fur. "Have you told her yet?" Bennett asked after a moment, his eyes fixed on his granddaughter. Sarah shook her head. "No, it hasn't been the right time. And honestly, I'm still processing it myself." "I understand," Bennett said quietly. "I don't expect immediate acceptance, Sarah. I know I have no right to suddenly appear in your lives." "It's not that simple," Sarah replied. "Lily has so little family, just me and my sister in California. She's asked about her father's parents before, and I've always told her they died before she was born because that's what Robert told me." She paused, then added, "Why did he tell me you were dead?" Bennett's face reflected deep regret. "Because to him I was a high-ranking military officer who was rarely home. When I was emotionally distant, critical. I missed birthdays, graduations, his mother's funeral. I prioritized my career over my family at every turn. By the time I realized what I'd lost, Robert wanted nothing to do with me." "He never spoke of you," Sarah said. "Not once in all our years together." "That doesn't surprise me. Robert was always resolute in his decisions. Once he cut me out, that was it." Bennett's voice grew hoarse. "My greatest regret is that I never got to apologize to him, to try to make amends before he was killed." Sarah thought about her husband, about his dedication to her and Lily, his determination to be present in ways his own father apparently hadn't been. "He was a wonderful father," she said softly. "He read every book on raising a blind child he could find. He learned Braille alongside me so Lily would grow up in a home where her way of reading was normal." Bennett's eyes shone with unshed tears. "He became the father I never was." "Yes," Sarah agreed, not unkindly. "He did." Another silence fell between them, filled with the steady beeping of Maverick's heart monitor and the gentle sound of Lily's breathing. "I'd like to be part of her life," Bennett finally said. "If you'll allow it. Not to replace anyone or to make up for lost time. That's impossible. But to be there for her future, in whatever capacity you think appropriate." Before Sarah could respond, her mind drifted back to another conversation, one that had taken place just 2 months prior. It had been a bright spring morning, and Sarah had taken Lily and Maverick to the local farmer's market. The bustling atmosphere was perfect for Maverick's training, navigating crowds, ignoring food distractions, helping Lily find specific vendors by scent. They had stopped at a bench to enjoy fresh strawberries when a well-dressed man approached them, commenting on how well-behaved Maverick was. "He's not just well-behaved," Lily had corrected proudly. "He's my service dog. He helps me see the world." The man had chuckled indulgently. "Of course, sweetheart. But have your mother and you considered an upgrade? The technology in service dog training has advanced considerably. At Elite Canine, we produce dogs with enhanced capabilities that far exceed traditional service animals." Something about his tone had immediately put Sarah on edge. "Maverick meets all of Lily's needs perfectly," she had replied firmly. "For now, perhaps," the man had countered smoothly. "But as your daughter grows, her needs will become more complex. Our elite-trained animals can provide services that, frankly, a dog from faithful companions simply cannot match." Sarah had noticed how he emphasized the word faithful with subtle disdain. "We're very happy with Maverick," she had stated, gathering their things to leave. The man had pressed a business card into her hand. "Just something to consider, especially given your daughter's unique challenges. Our dogs are specifically trained to prevent unfortunate incidents." There had been something vaguely threatening in his insinuation, something that had made Sarah want to pull Lily closer. Later, she had thrown the card away without a second thought. But now, in retrospect, the encounter took on a more sinister meaning. "Sarah?" Bennett's voice pulled her back to the present. I understand if you need time to consider. She refocused on him. Sorry, I was just remembering something. A man from Elite Canine approached us a couple of months ago. He made it seem like Maverick wasn't adequate for Lily's needs, that their dogs were somehow superior. At the time, I thought it was just aggressive marketing. It was the first step in their plan, Bennett explained grimly. They approach clients with existing service dogs, attempt to convert them, and if that fails, they sometimes create incidents to prove their point. According to the documents found at their facility, they had been watching Lily and Maverick for weeks, documenting their routines. A chill ran down Sarah's spine at the thought of strangers monitoring her daughter. That's disturbing. Very, Bennett agreed. And it's why the Justice Department is taking this so seriously. This goes beyond unfair business practices into potential criminal conspiracy. Just then, Agent Morales appeared at the door, her expression serious. Dr. Bennett, Mrs. Anderson, we need to speak with you both. Sarah glanced at Lily, still asleep against Maverick. I can't leave her. I'll stay with them, offered Mr. Jenkins, who had been dozing in a chair in the corner. Go on. I promise I won't leave them for a second. Reluctantly, Sarah followed Bennett and Agent Morales to a small conference room where Agent Taylor waited with Officer Wilson. The policeman looked distinctly uncomfortable, avoiding Sarah's gaze. Mrs. Anderson, Agent Taylor began, we've made some significant discoveries. Based on the evidence collected from Elite Canine and Officer Wilson's statement, we're preparing to make arrests for conspiracy, fraud, and multiple violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Officer Wilson has been cooperating fully, Agent Morales added, nodding toward the policeman. He's provided text messages from his brother that strongly suggest prior knowledge of the plan to discredit faithful companions. Wilson finally looked up, his face ashen. Mrs. Anderson, I want you to know that I had no idea what they were planning. My brother mentioned that his boss was interested in situations where service dogs showed aggression, but I never imagined they would deliberately create such incidents. Sarah studied him, trying to gauge his sincerity. You tased my daughter, she said quietly. A blind 6-year-old girl. How do you not assess a situation before deploying a weapon? Wilson flinched at her words. I have no excuse. I responded to a call about an aggressive dog threatening children, and I reacted based on that information without proper assessment. It was a catastrophic failure of judgment on my part. Officer Wilson has been placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation, Agent Taylor explained. But his cooperation has been instrumental in building our case against Gregory Payne and his associates. Sarah nodded, processing this information. What happens now? We're executing additional warrants at Elite Canine facilities in other states, Agent Morales explained. This appears to be a nationwide operation. As for your daughter and Maverick, we'll need formal statements, but that can wait until tomorrow. The storm outside seemed to be intensifying, the wind howling around the building. The lights flickered again, longer this time. The power grid is struggling, Agent Taylor noted. There have been outages reported across the county. Dr. Thompson appeared at the doorway, her expression concerned. We may need to prepare for a power outage. Our generator should kick in automatically, but I want to make sure we're ready, especially for our critical patients like Maverick. The gravity of the situation struck Sarah anew. Despite the medication, Maverick still needed careful monitoring and support. A power outage could compromise the equipment keeping him stable. What do you need us to do? She asked. For now, just be prepared, Dr. Thompson replied. We have emergency protocols in place. As if on cue, the lights went out completely, plunging the room into darkness. For a heart-stopping moment, there was only blackness and the sound of the storm. Then, with a low hum, the emergency generator activated, and dim backup lighting illuminated the room. Everyone stay calm, Dr. Thompson instructed. The generator will power essential equipment. I need to check on all our critical patients. Sarah immediately thought of Lily waking up in the darkness. While the lack of light wouldn't affect her daughter, the sudden change in atmosphere and the potential disruption to Maverick's care might frighten her. I need to get back to Lily, she said urgently, already moving toward the door. The group made their way back to the treatment room where Lily was now awake, her small face turned toward the sound of their approach. Mr. Jenkins stood beside her, a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Mom?" Lily called out, her voice tinged with anxiety. "The power went out. Is Maverick okay?" Sarah hurried to her daughter's side. "Yes, sweetheart. The clinic has a generator to keep all of Maverick's machines working. Everything's fine." Maverick, despite his weakened state, had positioned himself more protectively beside Lily, as if sensing her concern. His eyes tracked everyone in the dim room, alert and watchful. Dr. Thompson quickly checked Maverick's monitors. "His vitals are stable. The generator is powering all the essential equipment, so we should be fine as long as it holds out." "How long will that be?" Sarah asked quietly. "The generator has about 12 hours of fuel at full capacity," Dr. Thompson replied in an equally low voice. "After that, we'd need to transfer critical patients to another facility with power." Bennett, who had followed them into the room, spoke up. "I've already contacted our regional office. They're aware of the situation and have emergency transport on standby if needed." Lily's head turned toward the unfamiliar voice. "Who's that, Mom?" Sarah hesitated, exchanging a glance with Bennett. This wasn't how she had imagined introducing Lily to her grandfather, but circumstances rarely aligned with expectations. "This is Dr. Bennett," she explained carefully. "He's the one who brought the special medicine for Maverick." Lily's face brightened. "Thank you for helping Maverick, Dr. Bennett. He's my best friend in the whole world." Bennett moved closer, kneeling to Lily's level, though she couldn't see the gesture. "You're very welcome, Lily. Maverick is a very special dog, and I can tell he loves you very much." "He does," Lily agreed confidently. "And I love him. Mom says we're a team." "The best kind of team," Bennett affirmed, his voice warm, "one built on trust and love." Outside, the storm continued its assault, rain and wind battering the building. But inside the dimly lit treatment room, surrounded by unlikely allies brought together by crisis, Sarah felt the first stirrings of hope that they would weather this storm, both literal and figurative, together. The storm reached its peak around midnight, transforming the world outside into a chaotic symphony of wind, rain, and intermittent flashes of lightning. Inside the veterinary clinic, the backup generator hummed steadily, providing just enough power to keep essential equipment running and cast the rooms in a dim amber glow that created long shadows on the walls. Sarah sat beside Maverick's bed, watching the steady rise and fall of his chest. The medication Dr. Bennett had provided continued to work, stabilizing the German Shepherd's heart rhythm, but Dr. Thompson had warned that he wasn't out of danger yet. "The next few hours are critical," she had explained. "The electrical shock caused trauma to his heart muscle. We need to monitor him closely." Lily had finally been persuaded to rest on a cot the clinic staff had set up next to Maverick. She slept fitfully, one small hand extended to maintain contact with her dog's fur, as if afraid he might disappear if she let go completely. Even in sleep, their connection remained unbroken. Dr. Bennett entered the room carrying 3 paper cups of coffee. He handed one to Sarah and another to Mr. Jenkins, who had steadfastly refused to leave, insisting that Lily and Maverick needed as many guardians as possible. "Any change?" Bennett asked quietly, nodding toward Maverick. Sarah shook her head. "Stable, but Dr. Thompson is still concerned. The power situation isn't helping. She says if the generator fails, we'd need to move him, which could be risky in his condition." "I've been monitoring the weather reports," Bennett replied. The storm should begin to weaken by dawn, but the damage to the power infrastructure is extensive. They're estimating at least 24 hours before power is restored to this area. A flash of lightning illuminated the room briefly, followed by a tremendous crack of thunder that seemed to shake the building's foundation. Lily stirred but didn't wake, though Maverick's ears perked up alertly. "He's still protecting her," Mr. Jenkins observed, his weathered face softening, "even when he's the one who needs protection." Sarah nodded, emotion tightening her throat. Throughout the day's chaos, Maverick's devotion to Lily had never wavered. Even now, weakened and injured, his primary concern remained her safety and comfort. Dr. Thompson entered the room, looking exhausted but professional. She checked Maverick's monitors and examined his responses, nodding with cautious approval. "His condition is improving, but I'm concerned about our power situation," she admitted in a low voice. "The generator is running at full capacity, and we've had to divert power from non-essential areas to maintain critical functions. At this rate, we might only have 8 hours of power left instead of 12. Sarah felt a cold knot of fear form in her stomach. "What happens if the power goes out completely?" "We have battery backups for the monitoring equipment, but they only last about 2 hours, Dr. Thompson explained. "Without the ability to maintain proper temperature and administer his medication on schedule, it would be problematic." "What are our options?" Bennett asked. "Central Veterinary in Westlake has full power. They're on a different grid," Dr. Thompson replied. "But getting there in this storm—" She gestured toward the window where tree branches whipped violently in the wind. "I could drive him," Sarah offered immediately. "My Jeep has 4-wheel drive." Dr. Thompson shook her head firmly. "Mrs. Anderson, I understand your dedication, but the roads are simply too dangerous. Emergency services have reported multiple washouts, downed trees, and flooding. Even with 4-wheel drive, it would be extremely hazardous, especially with your daughter." "I won't leave Lily," Sarah acknowledged, "but she won't leave Maverick either. We're at an impasse." Bennett had been listening quietly, his brow furrowed in thought. Now he spoke up. "What if we brought Central Veterinary to us?" All eyes turned to him. "Explain," Dr. Thompson prompted. "I have contacts at several emergency response agencies," Bennett said. "If we can't safely transport Maverick to Central Veterinary, perhaps we can arrange for their cardiac specialist to come here, bringing the necessary equipment and medications." "In this weather?" Sarah questioned. "You just heard Dr. Thompson say the roads are impassable." "Not all roads," Bennett countered, "and not for all vehicles. Emergency services are still operating, albeit with difficulty. If we can make a compelling case for the urgency of the situation—" "It's worth trying," Dr. Thompson agreed, "but even if they agree, it could take hours to arrange." Bennett checked his watch. "It's just past midnight. Let me make some calls and see what's possible. In the meantime, do everything you can to conserve the generator's fuel." As Bennett stepped out to make his calls, Sarah turned back to Maverick, who watched her with alert, intelligent eyes. Despite his condition, there was a steadiness in his gaze that provided comfort, the unwavering loyalty that had made him not just Lily's guide, but the emotional center of their small family. "You hang in there, boy," she whispered, gently stroking his head. "We're all fighting for you." Maverick's tail thumped weakly against the bed, his way of saying he understood, that he was still present, still fighting alongside them. Mr. Jenkins cleared his throat. "You know, in all my years, I've never seen a bond quite like theirs." He nodded toward Lily and Maverick. "It's something special." "It is," Sarah agreed softly. "From the first day they met, it was like they recognized each other, like they'd been waiting to find each other. My father used to say that God sometimes puts souls together that are meant to heal each other," the old man reflected. I never much understood what he meant until I saw those two. Sarah smiled despite the gravity of their situation. Lily was so withdrawn before Maverick. The world was this intimidating place she couldn't fully access or understand. But with him by her side, she blossomed. She started taking risks, exploring, engaging with people. He gave her confidence. And she gave him purpose, Mr. Jenkins added. You can see it in the way he watches her, like she's the most important thing in his universe. The quiet conversation was interrupted as Bennett returned, his expression grave. What's wrong? Sarah asked immediately, recognizing the tension in his posture. The situation is worse than we thought, he replied. The flooding has cut off all major roads to Westlake. Emergency services are overwhelmed with rescue operations. They can't spare anyone for a veterinary emergency, no matter how compelling the case. Dr. Thompson's shoulders slumped. Then we'll have to make do with what we have here and hope the generator lasts long enough. Bennett shook his head. That's not acceptable to me. There has to be another way. A long silence fell over the room, broken only by the steady beeping of Maverick's heart monitor and the howling wind outside. Sarah found herself studying Bennett, this man who claimed to be Lily's grandfather, who had appeared so suddenly in their lives and who now seemed determined to save the dog that meant everything to her daughter. You said you were high-ranking military, Sarah said slowly. What exactly did you do? Bennett met her gaze directly. I was a lieutenant general in the Army, specifically overseeing canine programs and special operations involving military working dogs. After retirement, I founded the National Service Dog Association to help place former military dogs with veterans and civilians in need. So, you have connections, Sarah pressed. Military connections. Yes, Bennett acknowledged. But even military vehicles would struggle in these conditions, and I can't justify diverting resources from emergency operations for what? Sarah interrupted, a edge entering her voice. For a service dog? For your granddaughter's lifeline to independence and security? Bennett's expression tightened. That's not what I meant. I was going to say I can't justify diverting resources through official channels, but unofficially. His voice trailed off, and a new determination appeared in his eyes. Unofficially? Sarah prompted. Bennett pulled out his phone. I need to make one more call. Excuse me. As he left the room again, Dr. Thompson approached Maverick to check his vitals once more. His condition is stable for now, but I'm concerned about these power fluctuations. The generator is struggling to maintain consistent output. As if to emphasize her point, the lights dimmed momentarily before returning to their previous brightness. How much longer can it last? Sarah asked. At this rate, maybe 6 hours, Dr. Thompson admitted. We've turned off everything non-essential, but with the number of critical patients we're caring for, the demand is simply too high. Sarah felt the weight of impossible choices bearing down on her. If they stayed and the power failed completely, Maverick might not survive. If they attempted to transport him in the storm, they all might be at risk. And through it all, Lily remained the central consideration, her well-being, her need for Maverick, her inability to understand why her beloved companion might be taken from her. Bennett returned 15 minutes later, his expression unreadable. Well? Sarah asked. I've called in some favors, he said simply. We'll have transport within the hour. Dr. Thompson looked skeptical. What kind of transport could possibly get through in these conditions? The kind that doesn't need roads, Bennett replied. That's all I can say for now. Dr. Thompson, what would you need to safely transport Maverick to another facility? The veterinarian blinked in surprise, then quickly shifted to professional mode. Portable monitoring equipment, his medication, oxygen supply, thermal regulation? I can put together a transport kit, but I'd need to accompany him to monitor his condition." "That can be arranged," Bennett assured her. "How quickly can you prepare?" 20 minutes, Doctor." Thompson estimated. "But where exactly are we going? And how?" "You'll be going to Andrews Air Force Base," Bennett stated. "They have a fully equipped veterinary facility that handles military working dogs. As for how—" he paused, a ghost of a smile crossing his face. "Let's just say I called in a significant favor from an old colleague." Sarah stared at him, realization dawning. "You arranged a military transport? For a service dog?" "For my granddaughter's service dog," Bennett corrected quietly. "And yes, I did. Sometimes the connections we build over a lifetime can be used for something truly meaningful." The implications of what Bennett had done, calling in high-level military favors for Maverick's sake, struck Sarah deeply. This wasn't the action of someone merely trying to ingratiate himself into their lives. This was the desperate effort of a man trying to prevent his granddaughter from experiencing another loss. "Thank you," Sarah whispered, finding it hard to say more past the lump in her throat. Bennett nodded, understanding in his eyes. "We should wake Lily gently and explain what's happening. The transport will be intimidating. She needs to be prepared." Sarah moved to her daughter's side, gently touching her shoulder. "Lily, sweetheart, wake up. We need to talk to you about something important." Lily stirred, her unseeing eyes opening. "Mom, is Maverick okay?" "Yes, honey, but we need to move him to a place with better equipment," Sarah explained carefully. "A special doctor is going to help us take him there." "I'm going too," Lily stated immediately, fully awake now and reaching for Maverick. "Of course you are," Sarah assured her. "We're all going together. But the way we're traveling might be a little scary. It's going to be loud and we'll feel lots of movement." Lily's brow furrowed. "Like a roller coaster?" Despite the tension, Sarah smiled. "A bit like that, yes. But we'll be safe, and Maverick will be right there with us." "I'm not scared if Maverick is with me," Lily declared with the simple confidence of a child who implicitly trusted her four-legged guardian. Dr. Thompson had already begun preparing the necessary equipment, working efficiently despite the dim lighting. Mr. Jenkins helped where he could, gathering blankets and supplies under her direction. Bennett's phone buzzed. He checked it and nodded. "They're 5 minutes out. We need to move to the parking lot." "In this storm?" Sarah questioned, glancing toward the window where rain still lashed violently. "It's our only chance," Bennett replied grimly. "The generator is failing faster than expected. Listen." Everyone fell silent, and Sarah realized the background hum of the generator had changed, becoming more erratic with occasional sputters. Dr. Thompson's face paled. "We need to move now. If that generator fails completely—" The implications hung in the air, unspoken but understood by all the adults. Maverick's life depended on maintaining his treatment without interruption. With practiced efficiency, Dr. Thompson and a clinic technician prepared Maverick for transport, carefully transferring his IV lines to portable units and ensuring his monitoring equipment was secure. Bennett and Mr. Jenkins gathered blankets to protect everyone from the rain. "Lily, I'm going to carry you," Sarah explained, helping her daughter put on a raincoat. "Mr. Jenkins will have your backpack with your things, and Dr. Thompson and the technicians will be right beside us with Maverick." "Will the loud roller coaster thing help Maverick get better?" Lily asked, her face serious. Sarah looked to Bennett, who nodded reassuringly. "Yes, sweetheart," she answered. "It's taking us to doctors who can make Maverick completely better." Just as they finished their preparations, the lights flickered dramatically, and the generator's sound faltered. For a heart-stopping moment, the room plunged into darkness, and the monitoring equipment fell silent. Then, with a last valiant effort, The generator sputtered back to life, restoring minimal power. "That was our warning," Dr. Thompson said urgently. "We need to go now." Outside, the storm continued to rage, but now a new sound cut through the chaos, a rhythmic thumping that grew louder by the second. It was a sound Sarah recognized from her years as a military spouse, a sound that simultaneously triggered anxiety and relief. "What is that?" Lily asked, her sensitive hearing picking up the distinctive noise. Bennett answered before Sarah could, his voice carrying a hint of pride. "That, Lily, is a helicopter. A very special helicopter coming to help Maverick." The rain struck them like needles as they emerged from the veterinary clinic, driven horizontally by the fierce wind. Sarah clutched Lily tightly against her chest, while Dr. Thompson and her technician carefully guided Maverick's stretcher, now equipped with portable monitoring devices and wrapped in waterproof coverings. Behind them, the clinic's generator gave one final, sputtering groan before falling silent, plunging the building into complete darkness. "Perfect timing," Dr. Thompson shouted over the storm, her face illuminated by the helicopter's powerful searchlight as it hovered above the parking lot. Sarah had expected a standard military helicopter, but what descended into the cleared area was far more impressive. A massive Black Hawk, its rotors slicing through the rain with thunderous force, creating a downwash that nearly knocked them off their feet. The side door slid open to reveal two crew members in flight suits, gesturing urgently for them to approach. "Cover Lily's ears!" Bennett called out, handing Sarah a set of noise-canceling headphones designed for a child. She quickly placed them over her daughter's ears, noting how Lily's face registered both fear and fascination at the overwhelming sensory experience. "It's really loud, Mom!" Lily shouted, unable to gauge her own volume with the headphones on. "I know, sweetheart," Sarah replied, knowing Lily would feel the vibration of her voice even if she couldn't hear it clearly. "But we're going to be okay. Maverick is coming too." As they approached the helicopter, one of the crew members jumped down to assist with Maverick's stretcher. With practiced efficiency, they secured the German Shepherd inside the aircraft, ensuring his monitoring equipment remained functional despite the transition. Dr. Thompson climbed aboard, immediately checking Maverick's vitals. "Mrs. Anderson, let me take Lily," the crew member shouted, extending his arms. Sarah hesitated, her protective instincts flaring, but Bennett placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "He's trained for this. Let him help." Reluctantly, Sarah allowed the crew member to take Lily, watching anxiously as he expertly secured her daughter in a specially adapted seat inside the helicopter. Within seconds, he returned to help Sarah board, then Mr. Jenkins, and finally Bennett. The door slid shut, muffling the worst of the storm's fury, though the helicopter itself was far from quiet. Inside, the space was utilitarian but surprisingly well equipped. A medical station had been prepared for Maverick, complete with power outlets for his equipment and restraints to keep his stretcher stable during flight. "Andrews Air Force Base, 20 minutes, the pilot's voice announced through their headsets. "Weather's rough but manageable. We'll be above the worst of it shortly." Sarah settled beside Lily, ensuring her daughter's harness was secure. Despite the chaos, Lily appeared remarkably calm, her hands folded in her lap, her face turned toward where she knew Maverick lay. "Is Maverick okay?" she asked, her voice too loud through the headphones. Sarah guided Lily's hand to touch Maverick's fur. The German Shepherd, though still weak, immediately responded to her touch, turning his head slightly and offering a soft whine of recognition. "See? He knows you're here," Sarah assured her. "The doctors are taking good care of him." Dr. Thompson was indeed focused entirely on Maverick, adjusting his medication and monitoring his response as the helicopter gained altitude, occasionally consulting with what appeared to be a military medic who had been aboard when they arrived. Bennett sat across from them, his face reflecting a complex mixture of concern and determination. When he caught Sarah watching him, he offered a tight smile. "My colleague came through," he said simply. "Your colleague must be someone important," Sarah responded, gesturing around the well-equipped aircraft. "General Michaels commands the Special Operations Aviation Regiment," Bennett explained. "We served together for 20 years. When I told him what was happening with Lily and Maverick," he didn't need to finish the sentence. The evidence of his influence was all around them. A military helicopter diverted during a natural disaster for the sake of a little girl's service dog. The helicopter banked sharply, causing everyone to grab for support. Outside the small windows, lightning still flashed occasionally, but they were indeed rising above the worst of the storm, the violent turbulence gradually giving way to a steadier, if still uncomfortable, ride. Lily's face had gone pale, her small hands gripping the edges of her seat. "Mom, my tummy feels funny," she admitted. Sarah quickly located a sick bag and held it ready, stroking Lily's hair soothingly. "It's okay, sweetheart. Sometimes flying makes people's tummies upset. Just breathe slowly. We'll be there soon." Mr. Jenkins, who had been quietly observing, leaned forward. "You know, Lily, when I was about your age, my father took me up in a small airplane. My stomach felt just like yours does now. Want to know what helped me?" Lily nodded eagerly, clearly grateful for the distraction. "He taught me a special song," the old man continued. "Would you like to learn it? It might help your tummy feel better." For the next few minutes, Mr. Jenkins gently taught Lily a simple rhythmic tune that Sarah recognized as an old folk song, something about mountains and valleys. The distraction worked beautifully. Lily's grip on the seat relaxed, and some color returned to her cheeks as she concentrated on learning the words. Meanwhile, Dr. Thompson had moved to speak privately with Bennett, their expressions serious as they consulted over Maverick's condition. Sarah strained to hear their conversation over the helicopter's noise, but could only catch fragments: cardiac arrhythmia, specialized equipment, time sensitive. When Bennett returned to his seat, his face was grave. "Dr. Thompson says Maverick's condition is deteriorating. The stress of the transport combined with the delay in treatment. His heart rhythm is becoming increasingly erratic." Sarah felt her own heart constrict. "But they can help him at Andrews, right? That's why we're going there." "Yes, they have the equipment and specialists," Bennett confirmed. "But Dr. Thompson is concerned about whether we'll arrive in time. She's doing everything possible with the resources available, but—" He didn't finish the sentence, but Sarah understood the unspoken message. Despite everything, the medication, the military transport, the specialists waiting at Andrews, they might still lose Maverick. The thought was unbearable. What would she tell Lily? How could she explain to a 6-year-old that her best friend, her guide, her protector, was gone? After already losing her father, after having to navigate a world of darkness, this loss would be too cruel. As if sensing her thoughts, Maverick let out a soft whine from his stretcher. Despite his weakened state, his eyes were open, alert, watching Lily as she sang with Mr. Jenkins. Even now, his focus remained on his charge, his determination to protect her evident in every labored breath. Dr. Thompson approached, her expression professionally neutral but with worry evident in her eyes. "Mrs. Anderson, I need to be honest with you. Maverick's heart is struggling. The medication is helping, but the stress of transport has complicated his condition. We need to prepare for the possibility." "No," Sarah interrupted firmly. "I'm not preparing for that. Maverick is a fighter. He survived military service. He survived being tased. He's going to survive this too." The veterinarian nodded, respecting Sarah's position. "We're doing everything we can. The specialists at Andrews are standing by, and they have more advanced cardiac equipment than we could access at our clinic." "How much longer?" Sarah asked, glancing out the window where darkness and storm clouds still dominated the view. "About 10 minutes, Dr. Thompson replied. "I've updated the team at Andrews. They'll be ready the moment we land." Those 10 minutes stretched into an eternity. Sarah divided her attention between Lily, who continued to be distracted by Mr. Jenkins's songs, and Maverick, whose condition seemed to worsen with each passing moment. The monitor tracking his heart rhythm showed increasingly erratic patterns, and his breathing had become more labored. Dr. Thompson and the military medic worked continuously, adjusting medication, checking vital signs, exchanging increasingly urgent technical terminology. Bennett moved to sit beside the stretcher, one hand resting gently on Maverick's side, his expression unreadable. "We're beginning our descent to Andrews," the pilot announced through their headsets. "Medical team is standing by on the tarmac. ETA 5 minutes. Sarah felt a momentary relief, but it was shattered when one of Maverick's monitors suddenly emitted a high-pitched alarm. Dr. Thompson moved with urgent precision, checking readings and adjusting equipment. "What's happening?" Sarah demanded, trying to keep her voice low enough that Lily wouldn't hear over her headphones and Mr. Jenkins's singing. "His heart rhythm is destabilizing," Dr. Thompson explained tersely, administering another medication into Maverick's IV. "The stress of the flight, combined with the original injury." The alarm continued, its pitch becoming more insistent. The military medic joined Dr. Thompson, both of them working with focused intensity over Maverick's still form. "Mom?" "What's that noise?" Lily asked, her singing with Mr. Jenkins interrupted by her concern. "Is something wrong with Maverick?" Before Sarah could formulate a gentle response, the alarm changed to a continuous tone, the sound medical professionals dread most. Dr. Thompson's face transformed with alarm. "He's flatlined. Beginning CPR." The next moments passed in a blur of activity. Dr. Thompson began chest compressions on Maverick while the medic prepared a portable defibrillator. Bennett moved back to give them space, his face ashen. "What's happening?" Lily cried, her voice rising with panic as she sensed the sudden tension. "Mom? What's wrong with Maverick?" Sarah moved to her daughter's side, wrapping her arms around the small, trembling body. "The doctors are helping Maverick, sweetheart. His heart is having trouble and they're fixing it." "Like when Daddy's car wouldn't start and he had to jump it?" Lily asked, her mind searching for a framework to understand. "Yes, something like that," Sarah agreed, fighting to keep her voice steady as she watched Dr. Thompson deliver another round of compressions to Maverick's chest. "They're helping his heart remember how to beat properly." The helicopter descended rapidly now, the lights of Andrews Air Force Base visible through the windows. On the tarmac below, Sarah could see emergency vehicles and a team of personnel waiting, illuminated by powerful floodlights that cut through the lessening rain. 30 seconds to touchdown," the pilot announced. Dr. Thompson looked up briefly, her face grim. "No response to CPR or medication. We'll try the defibrillator once more before landing." The medic handed her the charged paddles. "Clear." Maverick's body jerked as the electrical current passed through him, but the monitor remained a flat line, the alarm a continuous reminder of what was slipping away. "Again, clear." Another jolt. No change. The helicopter touched down with a slight bump, its rotors still whirling overhead. The door slid open immediately, and a team of military veterinary personnel rushed forward, taking control of Maverick's stretcher with practiced efficiency. "Cardiac arrest, 3 minutes duration," Dr. Thompson reported as they transferred monitoring equipment. "No response to CPR or defibrillation." Sarah helped Lily down from the helicopter, keeping her daughter close as they followed Maverick's stretcher across the tarmac toward a brightly lit building. Behind them, Bennett and Mr. Jenkins followed, their faces reflecting the gravity of the situation. Inside the veterinary facility, everything happened with military precision. Maverick was rushed into a treatment room equipped with advanced medical technology, while Sarah, Lily, and the others were directed to a nearby waiting area. "I want to be with Maverick," Lily protested, trying to pull away toward where she had heard the stretcher being taken. "The doctors need space to work, sweetheart," Sarah explained gently, guiding Lily to a chair. "We have to wait here." "But he needs me," Lily insisted, tears streaming down her face. "Maverick gets scared in new places without me. He needs to know I'm there." The simple truth in her daughter's words broke something in Sarah. Maverick did indeed rely on Lily as much as she relied on him. Their bond went both ways. He was not just her guide, but she was his purpose, his reason for being. "Dr. Thompson?" Sarah called, catching the veterinarian before she could follow Maverick into the treatment room. "Lily needs to say something to Maverick. It might help. Please." The veterinarian hesitated, then nodded. "Quickly, then." "They're preparing emergency procedures." Sarah led Lily to the doorway of the treatment room, where they could see Maverick surrounded by medical personnel and equipment. His body lay still on the table, the monitor still showing that dreaded flat line. "Maverick," Lily called, her small voice somehow carrying above the technical discussions and equipment noises. "Maverick, I'm here. I'm waiting for you. You promised you'd never leave me in the dark, remember? You promised." A single tear fell from Lily's unseeing eye, landing on Maverick's fur as Sarah helped her reach out to touch him one last time. The room had gone quiet, the medical team pausing in their efforts as the little blind girl spoke to her silent protector. "You're the bravest, smartest dog in the whole world," Lily continued, her voice breaking. "And I need you. Please come back, please." For a moment, nothing happened. The flat line continued its monotonous display, and the room remained frozen in a tableau of impending loss. Then, almost imperceptibly, the monitor beeped. Once. Twice. "We've got a rhythm," one of the specialists announced, surprise evident in his voice. "It's weak, but it's there." The team sprang back into action, administering medications, adjusting equipment, working with renewed urgency. Dr. Thompson gently guided Sarah and Lily back to the waiting area, her expression cautiously hopeful. "What happened?" Sarah asked, hardly daring to believe. "I don't have a medical explanation," Dr. Thompson admitted. "His heart just started again. It's weak, but they're working to stabilize him now." Bennett, who had been watching from a respectful distance, approached them. "The old-timers in the service used to talk about handler recall," he said quietly. "Sometimes, when a military dog was critically injured, they would have the handler call to them. There were stories of dogs responding when nothing else worked." "You think Lily brought him back?" Sarah whispered. Bennett smiled slightly. "I think love is a powerful force, more powerful than we sometimes give it credit for." For the next hour, they waited anxiously as the medical team worked to stabilize Maverick. Lily eventually fell asleep in Sarah's arms, emotionally exhausted by the day's events. Mr. Jenkins dozed in a chair nearby, while Bennett made occasional calls to update the authorities back in Pine Ridge about their situation. Finally, a military veterinarian emerged from the treatment room, her expression carefully neutral as she approached them. "Mrs. Anderson?" she said quietly, mindful of the sleeping child. "I'm Dr. Winters, head of veterinary services here at Andrews. I wanted to update you on Maverick's condition." Sarah tensed, preparing herself for the worst despite the earlier signs of hope. "Is he?" "He's stabilized," Dr. Winters confirmed. "I won't pretend it wasn't close. Clinically, he was dead for almost 4 minutes. But we've managed to regulate his heart rhythm and administered specialized medication to support his cardiac function." The relief that flooded through Sarah was so intense she felt momentarily lightheaded. "So he's going to be okay?" Dr. Winters' expression remained cautious. "His condition is still critical. The next 24 hours will be decisive. But I can tell you that without the swift action taken by Dr. Thompson and without the transport arranged by Dr. Bennett, Maverick would certainly not have survived." Sarah looked over at Bennett, who had been listening quietly to the update. For the first time, she truly saw him not as an intruder in their lives or a reminder of painful history, but as someone who had moved heaven and earth to save what was precious to her daughter. "Thank you," she said simply, the words inadequate for the depth of her gratitude. Bennett nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Can we see him?" he asked Dr. Winters. "Briefly," the veterinarian agreed. "He's heavily sedated and we've got him connected to various monitoring and support equipment, but short visits are permitted." Sarah gently woke Lily. "Sweetheart, Maverick is doing better. The doctors say we can see him for a little while." Lily's face lit up with hope. "Really? He's okay?" "He's still very sick," Sarah explained carefully, "but he's fighting hard to get better. Would you like to sit with him for a few minutes?" Lily nodded eagerly, fully awake now. "Yes. Can I talk to him?" "I think that would be perfect," Sarah replied, helping Lily to her feet. "I think your voice is exactly what Maverick needs to hear." 1 year later, the grand chamber of the Capitol building hummed with anticipation. Senators, representatives, journalists, and distinguished guests filled the seats, their murmured conversations creating a gentle backdrop of sound that echoed off the ornate walls and ceiling. At the center of it all, a small wooden podium had been placed, adorned with the seal of the United States Congress. Sarah Anderson smoothed down Lily's dress one final time, tucking a stray blonde strand back into her neat braids. At 7 years old now, Lily stood tall and confident, her small fingers wrapped around the specialized harness of the German Shepherd sitting alertly by her side. Maverick's coat gleamed under the chamber lights, his blue service vest emblazoned with patches denoting his special training and status. "Are you ready, sweetheart?" Sarah asked, kneeling to be at eye level with her daughter, though Lily couldn't see the gesture. Lily nodded, her face serious but unafraid. "Maverick and I are ready, Mom. We practiced lots of times." From nearby, Dr. Richard Bennett, or Grandpa Rich, as Lily had taken to calling him, approached, dressed in a formal suit with military decorations discreetly pinned to his lapel. Over the past year, he had become a steady presence in their lives, his initial awkwardness gradually giving way to a genuine relationship built on mutual respect and shared love for Lily. "They're about to call you in," Bennett informed them, his voice carrying the pride he no longer attempted to hide. "The president just arrived, and the speaker is making the introductory remarks." Sarah felt a flutter of nervousness on her daughter's behalf. But Lily showed no signs of anxiety. The past year had transformed her in subtle but significant ways. She stood straighter, spoke more confidently, and navigated the world with a self-assurance that belied her young age and visual impairment. "Remember, sweetheart, just like we practiced," Sarah said. "If you get nervous, just imagine you're talking to Mr. Jenkins and the people at your school." Lily smiled, revealing the gap where she'd recently lost a front tooth. "I'm not nervous, Mom. Maverick isn't nervous either, so I don't need to be." It was true. The German Shepherd sat perfectly composed, showing no signs of stress despite the crowded, unfamiliar environment. His recovery had been nothing short of miraculous. After 3 weeks of intensive treatment at Andrews Air Force Base, followed by months of careful rehabilitation, Maverick had returned to his duties as Lily's guide with the same dedication and intelligence that had always characterized him. The only visible reminder of his ordeal was a small patch of white fur on his chest where the defibrillator paddles had burned him, a badge of honor that Lily liked to touch when she thought no one was watching. A tactile reminder of how close they had come to losing each other. "Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States," announced the Speaker of the House. Everyone rose as the President entered the chamber, applauding politely as he took his place at the main podium. Sarah guided Lily to stand, whispering a description of the proceedings in her ear. "Thank you all for being here today," the President began. "We gather to witness a historic moment in our nation's ongoing commitment to protect the rights and dignity of all Americans. The legislation we sign today, known formally as the Service Animal Protection and Rights Act, but which has come to be called Maverick's Law by those who championed it, represents a bipartisan acknowledgement that service animals are not merely pets, but essential partners for millions of Americans with disabilities. He paused, looking toward where Lily and Maverick waited. This law was born from an unconscionable incident that occurred 1 year ago when a young blind girl and her service dog were wrongfully attacked by law enforcement. That incident, tragic as it was, has led to meaningful change that will protect countless others from similar experiences. The President continued outlining the provisions of the new law: enhanced penalties for interfering with service animals, mandatory training for law enforcement agencies, federal funding for service animal programs, and standardized national recognition for properly trained service animals. And now, he concluded, I'd like to invite the young lady whose courage and whose remarkable bond with her service dog inspired this legislation. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Lily Anderson and her service dog, Maverick. A congressional aide appeared to guide them forward, but Lily politely declined the assistance. Maverick knows the way, she said confidently, giving the command that set the German Shepherd in motion. Sarah watched with a mixture of pride and amazement as her daughter and Maverick navigated the short distance to the podium with perfect coordination. Lily's white cane remained folded and tucked in a special pocket of Maverick's vest, unused but available if needed, a symbol of the independence she had achieved with her four-legged partner. A small step stool had been placed in front of the podium, allowing Lily to reach the microphone. Maverick positioned himself precisely at her side, his posture alert but calm, his eyes scanning the crowd in the continuous assessment that was second nature to him. "Hello," Lily began, her clear voice carrying through the chamber. "My name is Lily Anderson, and this is my service dog, Maverick. I'm 7 years old, and I've been blind since I was born." A hush fell over the assembly as the small figure continued with remarkable poise. "Maverick isn't just a dog to me. He's my eyes, my independence, and my best friend. Before Maverick came to live with us, I was afraid to go places by myself. The world seemed too big and too scary. But with Maverick, I can go to school, to the park, to the store, anywhere I want. He keeps me safe and helps me be brave." Lily reached down to touch Maverick's head, drawing strength from his presence. "A year ago, something bad happened to us. We were walking in the park like we did every day, and a policeman thought Maverick was a dangerous dog. He used his taser on Maverick and then on me when I tried to explain." The chamber remained silent, many in the audience visibly moved by the straightforward retelling from a child's perspective. "Maverick almost died saving me," Lily continued, her voice unwavering. "His heart stopped beating, but when I called his name and told him I needed him, he came back. The doctor said it was a miracle, but I think it was love. Maverick loves me too much to leave me alone in the dark." Sarah felt tears welling in her eyes, remembering those terrible moments in the military hospital when Maverick's heart had stopped. The memory of Lily's small voice calling to him, and the inexplicable response as his heart began beating again, still raised goosebumps on her arms. "This new law is important," Lily said, her tone becoming more serious. "Because service dogs like Maverick need to be protected. They're not just pets. They're heroes who help people like me live normal lives. They go through years of special training and learn to ignore distractions, find safe paths, and keep their persons safe." She paused, then added with the simple wisdom of a child, "And we love them, so they should be safe too." The chamber erupted in applause, many rising to their feet in a spontaneous standing ovation. The President himself appeared moved, waiting for the applause to subside before stepping forward to shake Lily's hand. "Well, thank you, Lily," he said warmly. "Your courage and Maverick's dedication remind us all what this legislation is truly about." As the President signed the bill into law with a series of ceremonial pins, one of which would be given to Lily as a memento, Sarah caught Bennett's eye across the room. The older man's face reflected a complex mixture of emotions, pride, certainly, but also a profound gratitude, as if he couldn't quite believe he had been given this second chance at family. Their relationship had evolved gradually over the past year. After Maverick's recovery, Bennett had returned to Washington, but made regular visits to Pine Ridge. At first, these visits had been somewhat formal, but as the barriers of history and hurt began to crumble, a genuine connection formed, not just with Lily, but with Sarah as well. Bennett had never tried to replace Robert in their lives or to overcompensate for his past failures. Instead, he had simply made himself available, offering support when needed, respecting boundaries when established, and slowly earning his place in their small family through consistent, thoughtful presence. The ceremony concluded with another round of applause, and Lily and Maverick navigated their way back to Sarah and Bennett with the same graceful coordination they had displayed earlier. "You were wonderful, sweetheart," Sarah said, embracing her daughter. "Dad would have been so proud of you." "Do you think he saw me from heaven?" Lily asked. "I'm certain of it," Sarah replied, her voice thick with emotion. Bennett placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "Your speech was perfect, Lily. You helped a lot of people understand why service dogs are so important." "Maverick did the hard part," Lily insisted, reaching down to stroke the German Shepherd's head. "He has to be brave every day." As they made their way out of the chamber, they were approached by Mr. Jenkins, who had flown to Washington with them for the ceremony. The elderly man had become something of an adopted grandfather to Lily even before Bennett's appearance, and rather than creating conflict, the two men had developed a friendly rapport based on their shared affection for Lily. "There's my little orator," Jenkins exclaimed, his weathered face creased in a wide smile. "You spoke better than half those politicians in there, Lily girl. Clear as a bell and twice as honest." Lily giggled, delighted by the praise. "Did Maverick look handsome in his special vest, Mr. Jenkins?" "Handsome as a movie star," Jenkins assured her. "And better behaved than most of the congressmen, I might add." Their conversation was interrupted by the approach of a man in a formal suit who introduced himself as an aide to Senator Harrison. "The senator would like to invite Miss Anderson and her family to a small reception in the East Wing," he explained. "Several families with service animals will be attending, along with representatives from service dog training organizations." Sarah looked to Lily, letting her daughter make the decision. "Would you like to go, sweetheart? Or are you getting tired?" Lily considered for a moment, her hand resting on Maverick's back. "Is it okay for Maverick? He's been working a long time." The question, so characteristic of Lily's concern for her service dog, brought smiles to the adults' faces. "There will be a quiet area where service dogs can rest," the aide assured her, "with water bowls and appropriate space." "Then we'd love to come," Lily decided. "Maverick likes meeting other service dogs. He says they understand him better than regular dogs." As they followed the aide through the Capitol building's grand corridors, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. The attack in the park had been traumatic, certainly, but it had also set in motion a series of events that transformed their lives in unexpected ways. The investigation into Elite Canine had uncovered a pattern of unethical and illegal activities extending far beyond the incident with Lily and Maverick. Gregory Payne and several associates now faced federal charges for conspiracy, fraud, and violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Officer Wilson had lost his job, but avoided criminal charges by cooperating fully with investigators, and had since become an advocate for improved police training regarding interactions with people with disabilities. Perhaps most significantly, the Anderson family had expanded. Bennett had purchased a small house just 2 streets away from Sarah and Lily, close enough to be involved in their daily lives without intruding on their independence. His expertise in service dog training had proven invaluable during Maverick's rehabilitation, and the bond that formed between man and dog mirrored the growing connection between grandfather and granddaughter. The reception was being held in an elegant room with tall windows overlooking the National Mall. As promised, a quiet area had been designated for service dogs to rest, though Maverick showed no signs of wanting to leave Lily's side. Several other families with service dogs were already present, creating a unique gathering where the canine attendees were as important as their human counterparts. Lily was immediately drawn to the other children, Maverick guiding her confidently through the unfamiliar space. "She's blossomed this past year," Bennett observed, watching his granddaughter introduce herself and Maverick to a boy with a seizure-alert dog. "The confidence she's gained is remarkable." "It hasn't all been smooth sailing," Sarah reminded him. "She still has nightmares sometimes about the incident. And there were those difficult weeks during Maverick's rehabilitation when she was so afraid he wouldn't be able to be her service dog anymore." Bennett nodded, acknowledging the challenges they had faced. "But look at them now. You'd never know either of them had been through such trauma." As if to illustrate his point, Lily laughed at something the boy had said, her face alight with joy, while Maverick stood attentively beside her, his posture relaxed but vigilant. "The resilience of children and dogs is astonishing," Mr. Jenkins commented, joining their conversation, "though I suspect having a strong mother helped considerably." He nodded respectfully toward Sarah. "We all helped each other," Sarah said, "including you, Mr. Jenkins. I don't know how we would have gotten through those first difficult days without your support." The old man waved away her thanks. "Nonsense. In my day, neighbors looked out for each other, nothing special about doing what's right." A photographer approached, asking if they would agree to a family photo for the congressional record. Sarah hesitated briefly. Their family configuration was somewhat unconventional, but then nodded. "Lily," she called, "can you come here for a moment? Someone would like to take our picture." Lily and Maverick made their way back to the adults, navigating around other guests with practiced ease. "A picture for people who can see?" Lily clarified with the literal thinking characteristic of many blind children. "Yes, sweetheart," Sarah confirmed with a smile. "A picture of you, me, Maverick, Grandpa Rich, and Mr. Jenkins. Our whole family," Lily stated matter-of-factly, taking her position between Sarah and Bennett with Maverick sitting perfectly at her feet. As the photographer prepared his camera, Bennett spoke quietly. "Sarah, there's something I've been meaning to discuss with you. I've established a foundation in Robert's name to provide service dogs to children with disabilities. The first training class will graduate next month. I was hoping you and Lily might attend the ceremony." Sarah looked at him in surprise. "A foundation? When did you do this?" "I've been working on it since Maverick's recovery," Bennett admitted. "It seemed the right way to honor Robert's memory and to support what's important to Lily." Before Sarah could respond, the photographer called for their attention. "Everyone look this way, please. And perfect." The flash captured the moment, a little girl standing straight and proud, her hand resting on her service dog's head, her mother beside her, strength and love evident in her posture, an elderly neighbor beaming with grandfatherly affection, and a distinguished older man whose face reflected the complex joy of found family and second chances. Later that evening, as they prepared to return to their hotel, a familiar face approached them near the exit. Dr. Thompson, who had been invited to the ceremony as a key witness in the investigation, greeted them warmly. "Lily and Maverick, don't you both look wonderful?" she exclaimed. "I almost didn't recognize this handsome fellow without all those monitoring wires attached to him." Lily beamed, immediately recognizing the veterinarian's voice. "Dr. Thompson, Maverick remembers you. His tail is wagging super fast." Indeed, the German Shepherd was displaying unusual enthusiasm, straining slightly toward the veterinarian who had fought so hard to save his life. "I just wanted to see how you both were doing," Dr. Thompson said, kneeling to greet Maverick properly. Though I can see the answer is exceptionally well. Maverick is perfect now, Lily declared confidently. He runs and plays and works, and Dr. Williams says his heart is super strong. Dr. Williams? Thompson inquired, looking up at Sarah. Maverick's cardiologist, Sarah explained. He sees her every 3 months for checkups, but she's found no lasting damage from the incident. She calls him her miracle dog. Dr. Thompson smiled, scratching behind Maverick's ears in the spot Lily had once revealed he preferred. Well, I've been doing this job for 20 years, and I've never seen anything quite like what happened that night, when he responded to Lily's voice after his heart had stopped. She shook her head in wonder. Some things just can't be explained by medical science. Love doesn't need scientific explanation, Lily stated with the simple wisdom of a child. It just is. The adults exchanged smiles over her head, recognizing the profound truth in her words. As they finally left the Capitol building, the evening air was crisp and clear, with stars visible above despite the city lights. Lily, tired from the long day, walked between Sarah and Bennett with Maverick guiding her as always. Mr. Jenkins followed a step behind, his cane tapping lightly on the pavement. "Mom," Lily said suddenly, "can we go to the Lincoln Memorial before we go home? My teacher said it's really big and has words carved in the walls about freedom." "It's quite late, sweetheart," Sarah began, but Bennett interjected gently. "The memorial is beautiful at night, all lit up," he said. "And less crowded. If you're not too tired, Sarah, I think Lily would find it quite an experience. There are tactile elements she could explore." Sarah considered for a moment, then nodded. "All right, but just for a little while. We have an early flight tomorrow." As they changed direction toward the National Mall, Lily reached out and took Bennett's hand, a spontaneous gesture that still had the power to bring emotion to the older man's face. With her other hand securely on Maverick's harness and her mother walking close beside her, Lily moved forward with the confidence of a child who knew she was loved, protected, and free to explore the world on her own terms. "You know," Mr. Jenkins observed quietly to Sarah, "there's an old saying my grandmother was fond of. God often uses our deepest pain as the launching pad of our greatest calling." Sarah watched as Bennett described the Washington Monument to Lily, the two heads, one silver, one gold, bent together in conversation while Maverick guided them safely along the path. "I think you're right," she agreed softly. "A year ago, I couldn't have imagined any good coming from what happened to Lily and Maverick. Now look at us. New family, new purpose, and a law that will protect countless other service dogs and their handlers." "From tragedy to triumph," Jenkins nodded. "Though I suspect Maverick would say he was just doing his job." Ahead of them, Lily laughed at something Bennett had said, the sound carrying clearly in the night air. Maverick's ears perked up at his young handler's joy, his step light despite the long day of work. And in that moment, surrounded by the gleaming monuments of democracy and justice, Sarah felt a sense of completion. Not an ending, but a new chapter in a story that had found its way from darkness into light, guided by the unwavering love of a little girl for her dog and a dog for his girl. Dear friends, the story of Lily and Maverick reminds us that even in our darkest moments, miracles can happen when love leads the way. Like many of us who faced life's unexpected storms, little Lily found strength not in perfect circumstances, but in unbreakable bonds. Remember when we were younger and believed that family was only defined by blood? Lily's expanded family, including a grandfather who returned, a neighbor who stood firm, and a loyal German shepherd who refused to leave her in darkness, shows us it's never too late for second chances. Many of us have experienced profound loss, felt forgotten, or wondered if our best days were behind us. But like Maverick, whose heart literally restarted at the sound of a child who needed him, perhaps our greatest purpose emerges when someone still needs us to show up. Have you experienced a Maverick moment when love pulled you through what seemed impossible? Or like Dr. Bennett, have you found the courage to reconnect with family after years of separation? Your stories matter too. Share them below. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for each other is simply remind one another that we're not alone in this journey.